Willow Creek was a forgotten speck of a town, nestled in the shadow of dense pine forests in northern Michigan. Its main street was lined with shuttered storefronts, and the only sounds at night were the cicadas and the occasional creak of a rusted weather vane. The Miller house stood at the edge of town, a decaying relic from the 1800s, its clapboard walls peeling like dead skin, its windows boarded up with splintered planks. The townsfolk avoided it, whispering about strange lights flickering in the attic or voices drifting from the chimney. But for Lila Harper, Ethan Cole, Mia Nguyen, and Jake Torres, for teenagers desperate for excitement in the summer of 2025, the house was a magnet. It was Lila's idea to play hide and seek there. She was the bold one, with a sharp tongue and a knack for pushing boundaries. Ethan, her quiet cousin, followed her lead, though his nervous glances betrayed his unease. Mia, the group's artist, was drawn to the house's eerie aesthetic, sketching its sagging porch in her notebook. Jake, the joker, agreed because he couldn't resist a dare. They met at dusk, their flashlights cutting through the humid air, the cicadas screaming in a relentless chorus. "Are you sure about this?" Ethan asked, his voice low as they stood before the rusted gate. The house loomed ahead, its silhouette jagged against the fading sunset. Lila smirked, tossing her braid over her shoulder. "Scared, Ethan? It's just a house. Nobody's lived here since forever." Mia shivered, clutching her sketchbook. "My grandma said people disappeared here in the 70s. Kids, mostly." Jake laughed, though it sounded forced. "Yeah, right. Probably ran away to join the circus. Come on, let's do this." They pushed through the gate, the hinges screeching like a wounded animal. The front door was ajar, its lock long broken. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the faint smell of rot. The foyer was a cavern of shadows, the wallpaper curling away in strips, revealing mold-blackened plaster. A staircase spiraled upward into darkness, and doorways led to rooms cluttered with broken furniture and cobwebs. "Hide and seek," Lila declared, her voice echoing. "I'll seek first. Count to 10, then find a spot. No cheating." Ethan hesitated, his flashlight beam trembling on the floor. "What if we get lost?" "Then you're out," Lila said, her grin sharp. "Go on, I'm counting." She closed her eyes, standing in the center of the foyer, and began. 1, 2, 3, the others scattered. Ethan ducked into a closet under the stairs, its door hanging by a single hinge. Mia slipped into the living room, crouching behind a moldy couch, her sketchbook pressed to her chest. Jake climbed the creaking stairs to the attic, squeezing behind a pile of rotting boxes. The house groaned around them, its timbers settling as if it were breathing. 8, 9, 10. "Ready or not, here I come." Lila's voice rang out, sharp and clear. Her sneakers scuffed the floor as she began her search, her flashlight beam slicing through the dark. Ethan huddled in the closet, his breath shallow. The space was cramped, the air heavy with the scent of mildew and something sharper, like rusted metal. He clutched his flashlight but kept it off, afraid its light would give him away. Lila's footsteps echoed in the foyer, slow and deliberate, circling the house. He strained to listen, expecting her usual taunts. "I see you, loser." But she was silent. Too silent. Then he heard it. 1, 2, 3, Ethan's stomach twisted. Why was she counting again? The rules were clear, count once, then seek. He pressed his ear to the closet door, his heart pounding. The counting continued, but it wasn't Lila's voice. It was deeper, raspier, like gravel grinding underfoot. 4, 5, 6, he peeked through a crack in the door. The foyer was empty, but a shadow moved across the far wall, a tall, thin figure with no clear edges, like smoke given form. It drifted toward the living room, its movements jerky, unnatural. 7, 8, Ethan's flashlight slipped from his sweaty hand, clattering to the floor. The sound was deafening in the silence. The shadow paused, its head, if it had one, tilting as if listening. 9, 10. Ready or not, here I come. The voice was closer now, right outside the closet. Ethan slammed his hand over his mouth, stifling a whimper. The shadow lingered, its form flickering like a dying flame. Then it moved on, its footsteps fading into the living room. Ethan waited, his chest tight, until he couldn't stand it anymore. He stumbled out, his flashlight beam shaking as he scanned the foyer. Lila was nowhere in sight that he crept toward the living room, where Mia was hiding. She was still behind the couch, her eyes wide with terror. "Did you hear it?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "The counting?" Ethan nodded, his throat dry. That wasn't Lila. Mia clutched her sketchbook, her knuckles white. "I saw something. It walked past the window, but it didn't have a face." They decided to find Jake and get out. The house felt wrong now, its shadows too deep, its silence too heavy. They climbed the stairs, each step creaking like a warning. The attic door was ajar, a faint draft carrying the smell of damp wood and something sour. Jake was behind the boxes, curled up and shaking. "I heard it," he said, his voice trembling. "It was in the walls, counting. It said my name." They called for Lila, their voices echoing, but she didn't answer. The front door was still locked from the inside, the windows boarded tight. As they stood in the foyer, the counting started again, louder, coming from everywhere and nowhere. 1, 2, 3, the shadow appeared at the top of the stairs, its form flickering like a bad TV signal. It had no face, but Ethan felt its gaze, cold and unyielding. 4, 5, run! Jake shouted, bolting for the back door. Ethan and Mia followed, but the house seemed to twist around them. Hallways looped back on themselves, doors led to brick walls. The counting grew faster, angrier. 8, 9, 10. The shadow lunged, its form stretching impossibly long. Jake screamed as it enveloped him, his body vanishing into the dark. When the shadow cleared, he was gone, leaving only his flashlight, still spinning on the floor. Ethan and Mia barricaded themselves in a bedroom, shoving a dresser against the door. The room was small, its wallpaper peeling in long strips, revealing older layers beneath, patterns of flowers and eyes, hundreds of eyes, etched into the plaster. Mia's hands shook as she opened her sketchbook, revealing a drawing she'd started earlier, the Miller house, its windows bleeding black ink. "We need to find Lila," Ethan said, his voice cracking. "She's still out there." Mia shook her head. "What if she's part of it now?" Before Ethan could answer, the counting resumed, seeping through the walls. 1, 2, 3, the dresser rattled, as if something was pushing from the other side. Ethan grabbed a broken chair leg, ready to fight, but Mia pulled him toward the window. They shattered the boards with the chair leg, the wood splintering like bone. The night air rushed in, cool and sharp, but the counting followed them, echoing in the trees. They leapt into the grass, rolling down a small hill. The house loomed behind them, its windows like empty sockets. They ran toward town, their flashlights bobbing, but the forest seemed to stretch, the path looping back toward the house. The counting was relentless now, a chorus of voices, Lila's, Jake's, and others, unfamiliar and ancient. They stumbled into a clearing, where the shadow waited. It was taller now, its edges sharper, its form pulsing with a sickly light. "Ready or not," it whispered, its voice a cacophony of screams. Ethan grabbed Mia's hand, pulling her toward a ditch. They hid among the roots of an ancient oak, their breaths ragged. The shadow circled the clearing, counting again. 1, 2, 3, each number felt like a nail in Ethan's skull. He realized it wasn't playing hide and seek, it was hunting, and it wouldn't stop until it claimed them all. Mia's sketchbook fell open, revealing a new drawing, the shadow, its form spilling across the page, its eyes staring back. "We can't hide forever," Mia whispered. "It knows where we are." Ethan's mind raced. He remembered the stories about the Miller house, how it was built on an old burial ground, how the first owners vanished, how the house was never truly empty. "We need to change the rules," he said. "It's playing its game, not ours." Ethan's plan was desperate, born of fear and instinct. If the shadow was playing hide and seek, they'd force it to play by their rules. He remembered Lila's confidence, her insistence on the game's simplicity: count, hide, seek. If the shadow was mimicking them, maybe they could trap it. "We'll seek it," Ethan said, his voice steadier than he felt. "We'll count, make it hide." Mia looked skeptical but nodded. They stood in the clearing, their flashlights off, the shadow's presence a weight in the air. Ethan began counting, his voice loud and deliberate. 1, 2, 3, the shadow paused, its form flickering. Mia joined in, her voice trembling but firm. 4, 5, 6, the shadow shrank, as if confused, its edges blurring. They kept counting, their voices growing stronger. 7, 8, 9, 10. "Ready or not, here we come." The shadow vanished, and the forest fell silent. For a moment, Ethan thought they'd won. Then the ground shook, and the counting began again, not from the shadow but from the earth itself. 1, 2, 3, the trees bent inward, their branches clawing at the sky. The house reappeared, closer now, its doors wide open. They ran inside, driven by some primal instinct. The foyer was different, larger, its walls pulsing with a faint light. Lila stood at the top of the stairs, her eyes black and empty. "You can't seek what's already found," she said, her voice layered with others. Jake appeared behind her, his face pale, his hands twitching. "You shouldn't have played," he whispered. The shadow emerged between them, its form splitting into multiple shapes, each counting in a different voice. Ethan grabbed Mia, pulling her toward the basement door. They descended into darkness, the steps slick with something wet. The basement was a labyrinth of tunnels, their walls carved with symbols, eyes, hands, numbers. The counting followed, echoing in their skulls. In the deepest tunnel, they found a chamber, its floor covered in bones, small, fragile, like those of children. A stone altar stood in the center, etched with the number 10. Ethan realized the truth: the house wasn't just haunted, it was alive, feeding on those who played its game. The shadow was its hunter, and they were its prey. "We have to end the game," Ethan said. "Break the cycle." Mia nodded, her sketchbook trembling in her hands. She drew the altar, her pencil moving frantically, as if guided. The symbols on the page glowed, and the counting stopped. The shadow appeared, its form solid now, a towering mass of darkness with countless eyes. Ethan grabbed a bone from the floor, using it to carve a new number into the altar: 0. The shadow screamed, its voices fracturing. Mia tore her sketch from the book, placing it on the altar. The paper burned, and the shadow collapsed, its form dissolving into ash. The house shuddered, its walls cracking. Ethan and Mia ran, the tunnels collapsing behind them. They emerged in the forest, the house gone, replaced by a scorched patch of earth. The cicadas were silent, the air still. They never spoke of that night. The police found no trace of Lila or Jake, only the ashes of the Miller house. Ethan and Mia moved away, but the counting never left them. In their dreams, they hear it: 1, 2, 3, and they know the shadow is still playing, waiting for its next seekers. The old farmhouse on the outskirts of Maplewood, Ohio, stood like a forgotten sentinel, its weathered clapboards sagging under the weight of decades. The air around it was heavy with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers, and the fields stretched endlessly, their golden stalks swaying in the late July breeze of 2025. The house belonged to Great-Aunt Clara, who had died 10 years prior, leaving it to rot under the care of distant relatives. Every summer, the extended Nguyen family gathered there for a reunion, filling the creaking rooms with laughter and the smell of grilled corn. But this year, the mood was different, tense, as if the house itself was watching. Sarah Nguyen, 16 and restless, was tired of the usual reunion games, card tables, charades, and endless stories from her aunts. She craved something thrilling, something to break the monotony of Maplewood's endless fields. Her cousins, Tommy, 13, with a knack for trouble, Rachel, 11, quiet and observant, and little Ben, barely 6, were her accomplices. They sat on the sagging porch, the sunset painting the sky blood red, when Sarah proposed a game. "Let's play sardines," she said, her eyes glinting with mischief. "It's like hide and seek, but better. One person hides, and everyone else finds them. When you find the hider, you squeeze in with them, like sardines in a can." Tommy grinned, his braces catching the fading light. "In the house? It's creepy as hell in there." Rachel frowned, clutching her stuffed rabbit, Mr. Whiskers. "Grandma said not to go inside. She said it's wrong." Ben, sucking on a lollipop, giggled. "I wanna play. It's like a spooky adventure." Sarah rolled her eyes. "Grandma's just superstitious. It's an old house, not a haunted mansion. Come on, it'll be fun." They slipped inside as the adults chatted in the backyard, their voices muffled by the thick walls. The foyer was a cavern of shadows, the air thick with dust and the faint smell of mildew. The wallpaper, once floral, was peeling in long strips, revealing blackened plaster beneath. A staircase spiraled upward, its banister splintered, and doorways led to rooms cluttered with broken furniture and cobwebs. The house groaned, its timbers settling as if it were breathing. Sarah volunteered to hide first. "Count to 50, she said, her voice echoing. "No peeking." Tommy, Rachel, and Ben huddled in the kitchen, their eyes closed, counting in unison. 1, 2, 3, Sarah's footsteps faded as she slipped away, her flashlight beam vanishing into the dark. The house seemed to swallow her, the silence growing heavier with each number. At 50, the cousins opened their eyes. The kitchen was dim, lit only by a flickering bulb above the sink. Tommy grabbed his flashlight, a cheap plastic one he'd won at a carnival. Rachel clutched Mr. Whiskers tighter, her eyes darting to the shadows. Ben, still sucking his lollipop, bounced excitedly. "Let's find Sarah." They split up, their footsteps creaking on the warped floorboards. Tommy headed upstairs, his flashlight beam cutting through the dust motes. The bedrooms were a maze of clutter, moldy mattresses, shattered mirrors, and old photographs scattered like fallen leaves. He called Sarah's name, but his voice echoed back, distorted, as if the house was mocking him. Rachel checked the pantry, a narrow room lined with empty shelves. The air was sour, like spoiled milk, and her flashlight flickered, casting jagged shadows. She heard a faint giggle, like Sarah's, but it was muffled, as if coming from behind the walls. "Sarah," she whispered, her voice trembling. The giggle stopped, replaced by a low hum, like a distant machine. Ben toddled toward the living room, his lollipop stick clenched in his fist. The room was a graveyard of furniture, a sagging couch, a broken rocking chair, a piano with missing keys. He giggled, thinking he saw Sarah's braid behind a curtain, but when he pulled it back, there was nothing but a cracked window, the glass reflecting his own wide-eyed face. An hour passed, then 2. The house grew darker, the shadows thicker, as if the walls were drinking the light. Tommy regrouped with Rachel and Ben in the foyer, their faces pale. "This isn't fun anymore," Rachel said, her voice small. "Where's Sarah?" Tommy frowned. "She's probably messing with us. Let's keep looking." They searched every room, calling her name, but the house was silent except for the occasional groan of wood or drip of water. Then Rachel stopped, her flashlight beam fixed on a narrow gap under the staircase, a crawlspace, barely big enough for a person to squeeze into. "There," she whispered. I heard her. Rachel crouched, peering into the crawlspace. The air was damp, smelling of mildew and something sharper, like rotting meat. Her flashlight beam revealed a tunnel, its walls slick with moisture, stretching deeper than the house's foundation should allow. She heard the giggle again, faint but unmistakable. "Sarah, is that you?" The giggle came again, but it was wrong, gurgled, like it was underwater. Rachel's heart pounded, but she couldn't turn back. She crawled in, her knees scraping the dirt, her flashlight flickering. The tunnel seemed to breathe, its walls pulsing faintly. At the end, she saw a figure, Sarah, curled up, her back to Rachel. But something was off. Sarah's hair was matted, her skin too pale, her limbs too long. "Sarah?" Rachel whispered, her voice shaking. The figure turned, and Rachel screamed. It wasn't Sarah. Its face was a mockery, eyes too large, mouth stretched into a jagged grin, teeth like broken glass. It reached for her, its fingers cold and slimy. Rachel scrambled backward, but the tunnel tightened, the walls closing in like a throat swallowing her whole. Tommy and Ben heard her scream from the foyer. They ran to the crawlspace, their flashlights shaking. Rachel's beam was gone, swallowed by the dark. "Rachel!" Tommy shouted, his voice cracking. He dropped to his knees, peering into the gap. The tunnel was impossibly deep, its walls glistening with something that wasn't water. He crawled in, his heart racing, determined to find his sister. The air grew colder, the walls slimy under his hands. The tunnel twisted, branching into a labyrinth that shouldn't exist. He found Rachel, curled up and sobbing, her flashlight dead. "It took her," she whispered. "It's not Sarah." Before Tommy could ask, he saw it, a figure with Sarah's face but skin like wet clay, its limbs bending at wrong angles. "Join us," it said, its voice a chorus of Sarah's and others, layered and wrong. Tommy grabbed Rachel, pulling her back, but the tunnel seemed to move, the walls shifting to trap them. He pushed her forward, screaming for her to run, but the figure was faster, its fingers sinking into his arm like claws. Ben stood alone in the foyer, his lollipop forgotten on the floor. He heard the giggle again, coming from the crawlspace, then the walls, then behind him. He turned, but no one was there. The house was silent, except for a faint scratching, like something crawling closer. The adults noticed the cousin's absence at midnight. They searched the house, calling their names, but found only Ben, curled up in the kitchen, his eyes blank. He wouldn't speak, only pointed to the crawlspace. The family tore it open, but it was just a shallow gap, barely a foot deep, filled with cobwebs and dust. No tunnel, no Sarah, no Tommy, no Rachel. The police came, then the fire department, then volunteers from Maplewood. They combed the house, the fields, the nearby woods, but found nothing. The crawlspace was sealed, the house condemned, but the family couldn't shake the feeling that it was watching them. Ben started drawing, his crayons tracing the same image over and over, a tunnel with a figure at the end, its face a smeared smile. Months later, Sarah's uncle, Min, returned to the farmhouse alone. He'd grown up there, heard Clara's stories about the house's hunger. She'd said it was built on a sinkhole, a place where the earth swallowed things, animals, crops, people. Min brought a sledgehammer, determined to break the crawlspace open. The walls crumbled easily, too easily, revealing a tunnel that stretched into darkness. He crawled in, his flashlight shaking, the air growing colder with each inch that he found them, or what was left. Sarah, Tommy, and Rachel, their bodies pressed together like sardines, their skin gray, their eyes open but unseeing. They were fused to the walls, their limbs twisted into the dirt, as if the house had claimed them. Min tried to pull them free, but the tunnel shook, and the figure appeared, its face a patchwork of his cousins' faces, its voice a chorus of their voices. "Join us." Min ran, the tunnel collapsing behind him. He stumbled into the fields, the house silent again. He never returned, but he hears the giggle in his dreams, sees the tunnel stretching toward him. The farmhouse still stands, its crawlspace sealed but not empty. The townsfolk avoid it, whispering about the thing that plays sardines, luring players into its depths, where they join the others, packed tight in the earth, forever laughing in the dark. Years passed, but Maplewood never forgot. The farmhouse became a local legend, a place kids dared each other to visit. In 2030, a new family moved in, unaware of its history. Their daughter, Lily, found a dusty journal in the attic, Sarah's, filled with notes about the reunion, the game, and a warning: don't play sardines. The house hides you, but it never lets you go. Lily ignored it, inviting her friends to play. The crawlspace was there, waiting, its walls slick with something that glistened in the dark. They counted, they searched, and one by one, they vanished. The house groaned, satisfied, its hunger sated for now. Ben, now a teenager, never returned to Maplewood. He lives with his parents in Cleveland, but he doesn't sleep. The giggle follows him, seeping from the walls of his apartment, from the shadows under his bed. He draws the tunnel obsessively, each sketch more detailed, the figures smile wider. In the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where the Hiawatha National Forest stretches across miles of dense pine and cedar, the small town of Munising clung to its traditions like a lifeline. Every June, the graduating seniors of Munising High School gathered for a final rite of passage, a game of manhunt in the woods at midnight. It was a ritual as old as the town itself, whispered about in hallways and planned in secret. The rules were simple: one seeker, a bonfire as the safe zone, and the vast forest as the playing field. Survive until dawn, and you were a legend. Get caught, and you were just another story. In June 2025, Ryan Carter, the star quarterback, stood by the bonfire, its flames casting flickering shadows on his face. His classmates, Emma Larson, the valedictorian with a sharp mind, Noah Patel, the class skeptic who loved debunking ghost stories, Ava Kim, the track star with a fearless streak, and a dozen others, huddled around, their laughter tinged with nervous excitement. The Hiawatha forest loomed beyond, its trees a wall of darkness, the air thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. The locals had stories about these woods, tales of lost hunters, strange lights, and an old Ojibwe legend about a spirit that hunted the living. But to Ryan and his friends, it was just a game. "All right, I'm the seeker," Ryan said, his voice carrying over the crackle of the fire. "Count to 100, then scatter. Don't get caught." Emma rolled her eyes, adjusting her glasses. "You're too cocky, Carter. I'm making it to dawn." Noah smirked, zipping up his hoodie. "Yeah, right. I'll be back at the fire sipping hot chocolate while you're tripping over roots." Ava grinned, her running shoes glinting in the firelight. "Good luck keeping up, Ryan." Ryan turned his back, facing the fire, and began counting. 1, 2, 3, his classmates bolted, their footsteps crunching on pine needles as they vanished into the trees. The forest swallowed their laughter, leaving only the rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. At 100, Ryan turned, his flashlight cutting through the dark. The bonfire's glow faded behind him as he plunged into the Hiawatha, its trees towering like silent sentinels. The air was cool, the ground soft with moss and needles. He moved with purpose, his athletic build making him a natural hunter. He knew the forest from years of hiking and camping, every trail, every clearing. His friends didn't stand a chance that he found Emma first, crouched behind a fallen log near the O'Train River, its waters gurgling softly. She yelped when his flashlight caught her, then laughed, brushing dirt off her jeans. Fine, you got me, she said, joining him. Let's find the others. They moved deeper, the forest growing denser, the air heavier. The trees seemed to lean in, their branches forming a canopy that blocked the moonlight. Ryan's flashlight flickered, its beam weakening. Cheap batteries, he muttered, shaking it. Emma stopped, her breath catching. Do you hear that? Ryan paused, listening. There was a sound, a low, rhythmic thud, like footsteps, but too heavy, too deliberate. It came from the north, near the old logging trails. Probably Noah messing with us, Ryan said, but his voice lacked conviction. They followed the sound, their flashlights trembling. The thudding grew louder, then stopped. In its place was a faint whisper, like whine through the trees, but it formed words. You're it. Ryan's stomach twisted. He swept his flashlight across the clearing, revealing nothing but trees and shadows. Emma grabbed his arm, her nails digging in. That wasn't Noah. We need to go back. But the bonfire was gone. The trail they'd followed was a dead end, the path looping back on itself. The forest felt wrong now, its silence oppressive, its shadows moving just beyond their light. They heard a scream, Ava, somewhere to the west. Ryan ran toward it, Emma stumbling behind, but the forest seemed to shift, the trees rearranging themselves. They found Ava's backpack, torn and abandoned near a cluster of cedars. Her flashlight lay nearby, its lens cracked, its beam flickering. Ava! Ryan shouted, his voice echoing back, distorted. The thudding resumed, closer now, circling them. Emma clutched Ryan's arm, her glasses fogging with her panicked breaths. We're not alone, she whispered. The forest was a labyrinth now, its paths twisting impossibly. Ryan and Emma pushed through underbrush, their flashlights nearly dead. They heard more screams, Noah, then others, each cut short, swallowed by the dark. The thudding followed, relentless, always just behind them. Ryan's confidence was gone, replaced by a gnawing fear. This wasn't manhunt anymore. Something was hunting them. They stumbled into a clearing near pictured rocks, where the cliffs overlooked Lake Superior. The moonlight was faint, the air thick with the smell of water and something metallic, like blood. In the center of the clearing stood a figure, tall, its body twisted, its face hidden in shadow. It carried a sack, dripping with something dark that pooled on the ground. Run! Ryan shouted, but Emma froze, her eyes fixed on the figure. It moved, its limbs jerking like a marionette, and Emma screamed as it lunged. Ryan grabbed her, pulling her into the trees, but her scream cut off, and when he turned, she was gone, her glasses glinting in the dirt. Ryan ran, branches tearing at his skin. The thudding was everywhere now, a heartbeat in the earth. He tripped over a root, his flashlight rolling away. The figure loomed above him, its sack open, revealing a void that pulsed with cold light. You're it, it whispered, its voice a chorus of his friends' voices, Emma, Ava, Noah, and others, older, unfamiliar. Ryan scrambled to his feet, sprinting toward the lake. The cliffs were treacherous, but he climbed, his hands slipping on wet rock. He reached a ledge, the waves crashing below, and hid in a crevice, his breath ragged. The thudding stopped, but the whisper returned, you can't hide. Ryan's mind raced, piecing together fragments of stories he'd heard growing up. The Ojibwe elders spoke of the Wendigo, a spirit of hunger that haunted the Hiawatha, born from greed and desperation during harsh winters. It hunted the living, claiming those who strayed too far, turning them into shadows of itself. Ryan had dismissed it as folklore, but now, with his friends gone and the figure's whispers in his ears, he wasn't sure. He remembered his grandfather's warning, the Wendigo plays games. It mimics your voice, your face, to lure you. Never play in the woods at night. Ryan cursed himself for ignoring it. The manhunt had been a trap, the forest its playground. He crept along the cliff, the figure's thudding footsteps echoing below. He found a cave, its mouth hidden by vines, and slipped inside. The air was damp, the walls carved with symbols, spirals, eyes, hands clutching hearts. At the back was a pile of bones, some human, some not, and a journal, its pages brittle. It was dated 1975, written by a menacing senior named Clara. She described a manhunt gone wrong, a figure that hunted her friends, a sack that swallowed them whole. "It's not a spirit," she wrote. "It's the forest. It's alive." Ryan's flashlight died, plunging him into darkness. The thudding was inside the cave now, the whisper closer, "You're it." He clutched the journal, his only weapon, and ran, the cave narrowing around him. He emerged in the forest, the bonfire visible again, but it was cold, its ashes scattered. His classmates stood in a circle, their eyes blank, their mouths moving in unison, "You're it." Ryan ran, the forest closing in. The figure was everywhere, its sack dripping, its whispers a cacophony of voices. He realized the truth, the Wendigo wasn't just a spirit, it was the forest, the hunger of the land itself, awakened by their game. The bonfire, the safe zone, was a lie, it drew them in, made them pray. He reached the O'Train River, its waters black under the moon. The figure was there, its sack open, a void that pulsed with his friends' faces. Ryan threw the journal, hoping to distract it, but it laughed, a sound like cracking ice. "You can't end the game," it said, its voice Emma's, then Noah's, then his own. Desperate, Ryan remembered Clara's last entry, "Burn the heart." He didn't know what it meant, but he grabbed a branch, lit it from a smoldering ember at the bonfire, and charged. The figure screamed as the flame touched its sack, the void collapsing. The forest shook, trees bending inward, and the figure dissolved, its voices fading. Ryan stumbled into Munising at dawn, his clothes torn, his body bruised. The police searched the Hiawatha but found no trace of his friends, only their backpacks and Clara's journal, its pages blank. The elders sealed the trails, warning of the Wendigo's return. Ryan moved away, but the thudding follows him, the whisper in his dreams, "You're it." He knows the forest is still playing, waiting for its next seekers. Greenwood Cemetery in Brooklyn, New York, sprawled across 478 acres of rolling hills, its ancient oaks and weathered headstones casting long shadows under the October moon. Established in 1838, it was a city of the dead, home to 500,000 souls, from Civil War generals to forgotten poets. By 2025, it was a historic landmark, its iron gates locked at night to keep out vandals and thrill-seekers. But for the teenagers of Park Slope High, Greenwood was more than a cemetery, it was a proving ground, especially on Halloween. Emily Chen, 14, stood with her friends, Lucas Rivera, Ava Thompson, and Noah Kim, at the edge of the cemetery's rusted south gate, their flashlights trembling in the chilly air. Halloween was their night, a break from midterms and curfews, and Greenwood was the ultimate dare. The game was Ghost in the Graveyard, a Brooklyn tradition whispered about in schoolyards. One person played the ghost, hiding among the tombstones, while the others searched. Find the ghost, and you won. Get caught, and you became part of the legend. Lucas, the group's leader with a knack for trouble, grinned as he adjusted his baseball cap. "This is gonna be epic. Greenwood's got, like, real ghosts. My cousin saw one last year, a lady in white near the chapel." Ava, the artist of the group, rolled her eyes, her sketchbook tucked under her arm. "Your cousin's full of it, Lucas. It's just a creepy old place." Noah, always the cautious one, shifted nervously, his glasses fogging in the cold. "My dad said people got lost in here in the 90s. They never found them." Emily, the quiet one, felt a thrill of fear but pushed it down. "It's just a game. Let's do it." Lucas volunteered to be the ghost. He slipped through a gap in the gate, his flashlight beam vanishing among the headstones. The others huddled outside, their breath visible in the moonlight. They began the chant, their voices low and trembling. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, rock. The words echoed off the stone angels and obelisks, the cemetery swallowing the sound. At midnight, they shouted, "Ghost in the graveyard," and squeezed through the gate, their sneakers crunching on gravel paths. The cemetery was a labyrinth of winding paths, mausoleums, and gnarled trees. The air smelled of damp earth and decaying leaves, and the fog curled around the headstones like ghostly fingers. Emily took the path toward Battle Hill, where Revolutionary War soldiers were buried, her flashlight catching the glint of weathered marble. Ava headed toward the Gothic chapel, its spires looming like skeletal hands. Noah stuck to the main path, near the catacombs, his heart pounding with every rustle of leaves. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the distant hum of Brooklyn traffic. Emily called for Lucas, her voice small against the vastness of Greenwood. "Lucas, come out." No answer. She passed a headstone etched with a weeping angel, its eyes seeming to follow her. She shivered, her flashlight flickering, and quickened her pace. Ava reached the chapel, its doors locked but its stained glass windows glowing faintly in the moonlight. She heard a faint giggle, like Lucas's, coming from behind a crypt. "Got you," she whispered, creeping forward. But when she rounded the corner, there was nothing, just a pile of dead leaves and a cracked headstone. The giggle came again, from the chapel's roof, then from the ground beneath her feet. Ava's sketchbook slipped from her hands, its pages fluttering open to a drawing she didn't remember making, a skeletal figure in a tattered cloak, its eyes glowing. Noah, near the catacombs, felt the air grow colder. He heard footsteps, not Lucas's sneakers but something heavier, like boots on stone. He swung his flashlight, catching a glimpse of a shadow, tall, its edges blurred, moving too fast. "Lucas, stop messing around," he shouted, but his voice cracked. The shadow vanished, and the footsteps stopped, replaced by a whisper, "Run." The group regrouped near the sylvan water, a pond surrounded by willows. Their faces were pale, their flashlights dim. "This place is wrong," Noah said, his glasses fogging again. "I saw something. It wasn't Lucas." Ava nodded, clutching her sketchbook. "I heard him, but it wasn't right. Like his voice was underwater." Emily's heart raced. "We need to find him and get out." They called for Lucas, their voices echoing, but the cemetery was silent. Then Ava screamed, pointing to a headstone near the pond. Its inscription glowed faintly in the moonlight, "Lucas Rivera, 2011 to 2025. Noah laughed nervously, saying it was a prank, but Emily noticed the dirt was fresh, disturbed, as if recently dug. The fog thickened, curling around their ankles like chains. The chant began again, unbidden, from the shadows. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, rock. It wasn't their voices. It was deeper, layered, coming from the trees, the graves, the air itself. Emily grabbed Ava's arm, pulling her toward the gate, but the path twisted, leading them deeper into the cemetery. They stumbled into a clearing near the valley water, where a mausoleum stood, its iron door ajar. The whisper came again, "Run." Noah pushed ahead, his flashlight dead, but the mausoleum's interior glowed with a sickly green light. Inside, they found Lucas, or what looked like him. He stood in the center, his eyes black, his mouth moving in time with the chant, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, midnight. "Lucas!" Emily shouted, but he didn't respond. His skin was pale, his movements jerky, like a puppet. A figure emerged behind him, a skeletal form in a tattered cloak, its eyes glowing like embers. It wore Lucas's cap, tilted at a wrong angle. Ava screamed, dropping her sketchbook, and the figure lunged, its bony hand brushing her shoulder. She collapsed, her eyes blank, her body cold. Noah grabbed Emily, pulling her out of the mausoleum. They ran, the chant following, the fog choking them. The paths looped back, the headstones rearranging themselves. Noah tripped over a root, and the figure was there, its cloak billowing like smoke. "Run," it whispered, its voice a chorus of voices, Lucas's, Ava's, and others, ancient and hollow. Noah pushed Emily forward, but the figure's hand touched his chest, and he fell, his glasses shattering on the ground. Emily ran alone, the cemetery a maze of shadows. The gate was gone, replaced by a wall of fog. The chant was everywhere now, relentless, ghost in the graveyard. She hid behind a monument, her breath ragged, her flashlight dead. The figure was close, its footsteps crunching on gravel, its whisper in her ear, "You're the ghost now." Emily's mind raced, piecing together stories she'd heard about Greenwood. The cemetery was a tourist spot by day, but at night, it was different. Her history teacher had mentioned a tragedy in 1876, a fire in a nearby tenement, killing a dozen children who were buried here, their graves unmarked. Locals said their spirits lingered, playing games with the living, luring them into the dark. She remembered a ghost tour guide's tale: the children choose a new ghost each Halloween, someone to join their game forever. Emily realized the figure wasn't just a ghost, it was all of them, a collective bound by grief and rage, using the game to claim new players. Lucas, Ava, and Noah were gone, taken to replace the lost. She found a chapel, its doors unlocked, and slipped inside. The air was heavy, the pews covered in dust. On the altar was a child's toy, a spinning top, its paint faded, surrounded by faded photographs of children, their eyes scratched out. Emily's hands shook as she picked up a photo, recognizing the skeletal figure's cloak in the background. The chant began again, louder, shaking the walls. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, the figure appeared, its cloak trailing like fog, its eyes burning. Emily clutched the spinning top, an idea forming. If the children were bound to the game, maybe breaking its rules could free her friends. She spun the top on the altar, shouting, "I'm the ghost. Come find me." The chant stopped, the figure freezing, its eyes flickering, the chapel shook, the windows shattering. Shadows poured in, children, their faces pale, their hands reaching. "You can't be the ghost," they whispered, their voices a chorus. "We are." Emily ran, the top spinning behind her, its hum growing louder. The cemetery shifted, the path straightening, the gate visible again. She squeezed through, collapsing on the sidewalk, the chant fading. The spinning top was in her hand, its paint fresh, as if newly made. Emily stumbled into Park Slope, her clothes torn, her body bruised. The police searched Greenwood but found no trace of Lucas, Ava, or Noah, only their backpacks and Ava's sketchbook, its pages blank except for a drawing of the skeletal figure. The cemetery was sealed, its gates reinforced, but the stories grew. On Halloween, kids in Brooklyn whispered about the chant, the children who played forever in the dark. Emily moved to Queens, but the spinning top followed, appearing in her room no matter where she hid it. She heard the chant in her dreams, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, she knew the children were still playing, waiting for her to return. Greenwood remained silent, its headstones watching, its gates locked but never truly closed. In the heart of Bronzeville, Chicago, where historic brownstones stood alongside vacant lots, the summer of 2025 was swelteringly unbearable. The neighborhood, once a vibrant hub of African American culture, was dotted with empty parcels of land, relics of urban decay and unfulfilled redevelopment promises. One such lot, on the corner of 47th Street and Calumet Avenue, was a local legend. Surrounded by rusted chain-link fences and littered with broken concrete, it was the kids' playground, a place where they escaped the heat and the weight of their parents' worries. But the lot had a reputation. Old-timers whispered about strange shadows, voices in the wind, and a fire in 1968 that leveled a tenement on that very spot, killing a family whose names were long forgotten. Caleb Jackson, 12, stood in the center of the lot, his sneakers scuffing the cracked asphalt. He was the leader of his crew, Sophia Martinez, Malik Washington, and Tara Green, all neighborhood kids bound by summer spent dodging trouble. They'd played every game in the book, but kick the can was their favorite. The rules were simple: one seeker guarded a tin can in the lot center, while the others hid. If a hider kicked the can before being caught, they freed everyone. If not, they were out. It was a humid July evening, the streetlights flickering to life, casting an orange glow over the lot. Caleb held the can, an old coffee tin they'd found in a dumpster, its edges rusted but sturdy. "I'm the seeker," he said, his voice carrying over the distant hum of cicadas. "Count to 30, then hide." Sophia, 10 and fierce, grinned, her red sneakers bright against the asphalt. "You're going down, Caleb." Malik, 11, adjusted his Cubs cap, smirking. "Yeah, I'm kicking the can before you blink." Tara, the youngest at 9, clutched her braid nervously. "My grandma said not to play here at night. She said the lot's bad." Caleb rolled his eyes. "Your grandma thinks everything's bad. It's just a game. Go." He closed his eyes, placing the can in the center of the lot, and began counting. 1, 2, 3, his friends scattered, their footsteps fading as they ducked behind dumpsters, rusted cars, and piles of broken bricks. The lot was a maze of shadows, the air heavy with the smell of dust and something sour, like burnt metal. At 30, Caleb opened his eyes. The lot was silent, the streetlights dimmer than they should be, their glow swallowed by the encroaching dark. He scanned the shadows, expecting to see Sophia's sneakers or Malik's cap. Instead, he heard a faint scrape, like metal on asphalt. The can had moved, sliding an inch to the left, its rusted surface glinting under a streetlight. Caleb froze, his heart thudding. "Guys, that's not funny," he called, his voice echoing off the fences. No answer. He stepped toward the can, his sneakers crunching on gravel. It moved again, sliding another inch, as if nudged by an invisible foot. "Sophia? Malik?" he shouted, but the lot was quiet, the cicadas silent. He reached for the can, his hand trembling. The air grew cold, the temperature dropping sharply. A whisper came from behind him, "Kick it." He spun around, his flashlight beam cutting through the dark, but no one was there. The can scraped again, louder, sliding toward a pile of debris. Caleb backed away, his breath hitching, and heard Sophia scream from behind a dumpster. He ran to her, finding her curled up, her eyes wide with terror. "It's watching us," she whispered, pointing to the can. It moved on its own. Malik and Tara emerged from their hiding spots, their faces pale. "I saw it too," Malik said, his voice shaking. "It wasn't any of us." Tara clutched her braid, tears in her eyes. "We need to go home. This place is wrong." Caleb shook his head, trying to stay brave. "It's just a prank. Let's kick the can and end the game." They approached the can, their flashlights trembling. It rattled violently, then shot into the air, landing at the lot's edge. A figure stood there now, its body bent at wrong angles, its face a blur of static, like a broken TV screen. "Kick it," it hissed, its voice like metal grinding on stone. Caleb's courage faltered, but he stepped forward, determined to prove it was nothing. He kicked the can, hoping to break the spell. It flew across the lot, clattering against a fence, but the figure was gone, and the can was back in the center, upright, untouched. Sophia tried next, her kick strong, but the can returned, the figure reappearing closer, its static face flickering with their own terrified expressions. The kids huddled together, their flashlights dimming, the lot growing darker. The figure was everywhere now, its whispers echoing, "Kick it." Malik grabbed a brick, throwing it at the can, but it vanished mid-air, reappearing in the center. Tara tried to run, but the fences seemed taller, the lot stretching impossibly wide. Sophia's scream pierced the night as the figure lunged, its hands sinking into her like she was clay. She vanished, leaving only her red sneakers, one lace untied. Caleb grabbed Malik and Tara, pulling them behind a rusted car, but the can rattled again, louder. It sounded a heartbeat in the asphalt. Caleb's mind raced, recalling stories his uncle told about the lot. In 1968, a tenement stood here, home to a family who died in a fire. The father, a tinker, made toys from scrap, including a tin can he enchanted with a curse to protect his children. But the fire consumed them, and the curse twisted, binding their spirits to the lot, forever playing their father's game. The old-timers said the can was alive, a trap for anyone who played. We have to destroy it, Caleb said, his voice steady despite his fear. The can's keeping them here. Malik nodded, his cap askew. How? It keeps coming back. Tara pointed to a pile of debris, where a faint glow pulsed. There. It's where the can keeps going. They crept toward the debris, the figure's whispers growing louder, kick it. The glow came from a crack in the asphalt, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a tin box, etched with symbols, eyes, hands, flames. The can sat atop it, vibrating, as if alive. Caleb opened the box, his hands shaking. Inside was a charred photograph of a family, parents and 3 children, their faces blurred, their eyes glowing like the figures. A note, written in shaky handwriting, read, "The game never ends. Kick the can, join us." The air grew colder, the figure appearing behind them, its static face splitting into multiple faces, the family, their expressions frozen in agony. Malik threw another brick, but the figure caught it, its hand dissolving the stone into ash. Tara screamed, and the figure lunged, its fingers brushing her braid. She froze, her body slumping, and vanished, leaving only a faint echo of her cry. Caleb and Malik ran, the lot twisting around them, the fences closing in like jaws. They found a fire pit, a remnant of past games, its embers still warm. Caleb remembered his uncle's warning, fire started it, fire ends it. He grabbed a stick, lighting it from the embers, and threw it at the can. The can screeched, a sound like tearing metal, and the figure screamed, its faces fracturing. The box glowed brighter, the symbols burning. Caleb and Malik smashed the box with bricks, the can melting into the asphalt, its screams fading. The lot shook, the fences collapsing, and the figure dissolved, its faces vanishing into the dark. They ran, stumbling onto 47th Street, the lot silent behind them. The police searched the lot but found no trace of Sophia or Tara, only their sneakers and Malik's cap, scattered among the debris. The city bulldozed the lot, paving it over, but the stories grew. Kids in Bronzeville whispered about the can, how it appeared at night, waiting for players. Caleb and Malik moved away, but the whispers followed, the cans rattle in their dreams, kick it. The lot is gone now, replaced by a community garden, but on summer nights, when the streetlights flicker, the kids say they hear it, a scrape of metal, a voice in the wind, calling them to play the game that never ends. The Black Hills National Forest in South Dakota was a cathedral of towering pines and jagged granite peaks, its shadows stretching long across the rugged terrain. In the summer of 2025, Camp Lakota, nestled near Custer State Park, was a haven for teenagers from Rapid City and beyond, offering canoeing, archery, and the promise of adventure. But for the campers in Cabin 7, the real thrill came after dark, when the counselors retired to their cabins and the kids ruled the night. Their game of choice was Capture the Flag, a tradition that turned the forest into a battlefield of strategy and stealth. Maya Thompson, 16, was the unofficial leader of Cabin 7. With her quick wit and knack for tactics, she'd won every game since arriving at camp 2 weeks ago. Her teammates, Isaiah Brown, a lanky basketball player with a contagious laugh, Lena Ortiz, a quiet girl with a talent for sneaking, and Dylan Moore, a tech nerd who always carried a pocket knife, were ready for another victory. Their rivals, Cabin 8, led by cocky Ethan Hayes, had challenged them to a midnight game in the Hollow, a secluded valley a mile from camp, rumored to be cursed by the Lakota elders. The hollow was off-limits, marked by a sagging barbed wire fence and warning signs faded by years of sun and rain. Locals whispered about the valley's history, a massacre in the 1870s, when miners clashed with Lakota warriors, leaving blood-soaked earth and restless spirits. Maya dismissed the stories as camp folklore, but the thrill of breaking rules was irresistible. They gathered at dusk, the two cabins facing off in the mess hall. Ethan, his blonde hair falling into his eyes, smirked. "Hollows are turf tonight, Thompson. 2 flags, 1 for each team, hidden in the valley. First to grab the other's flag and bring it back wins." Maya grinned, her braids swinging as she leaned forward. "You're on, Hayes. But don't cry when we smoke you." Isaiah high-fived her, his grin wide. "Let's make them eat dirt." Lena adjusted her hoodie, her voice soft but firm. "We stick together, okay? That place feels off." Dylan, fidgeting with his pocket knife, nodded. "I read about the hollow online. People go missing there. Like, a lot." Maya waved him off. "It's just a game. We'll be back by breakfast." They slipped out after lights out, their flashlights bobbing through the pines. The hollow was a mile trek, the air cool and thick with the scent of sap and earth. The valley was a bowl of shadows, its floor littered with rocks and gnarled roots, its edges framed by cliffs. They set up their flags. Maya's team chose a red bandana tied to a cedar, Cabin 8 a blue rag on a boulder. The rules were set: no tackling, no cheating, and the campfire at the valley's edge was the safe zone. The game began with a whistle from Ethan, and the team scattered. Maya led her group toward Cabin 8's flag, moving low through the underbrush. Isaiah took point, his long legs navigating the uneven ground. Lena slipped into the shadows, her stealth unmatched, while Dylan lagged, muttering about bad cell service. The hollow was silent, the usual forest sounds, crickets, owls, absent, replaced by a low hum, like a distant engine. Maya's team reached a clearing near Harney Peak's base, where Cabin 8's flag was supposedly hidden. She scanned the rocks, her flashlight catching glints of quartz. "Spread out," she whispered. "It's gotta be close." Lena vanished into a thicket, her flashlight dimming. Isaiah checked a crevice, his beam shaking. Dylan stayed close to Maya, his pocket knife clutched tight. Then they heard it, a low, guttural chant, like voices speaking in unison, coming from the cliffs. "What the hell is that?" Isaiah whispered, his laugh gone. Before Maya could answer, Lena screamed from the thicket. They ran to her, finding her flashlight on the ground, its beam flickering. Her hoodie was caught on a branch, torn, but she was gone. "Lena!" Maya shouted, her voice echoing off the cliffs. The chant grew louder, the words indistinct but heavy, like stones dropping into water. They searched frantically, calling her name, but the hollow seemed to shift, the trees closer, the paths twisting. Dylan's flashlight caught something, a figure, tall and gaunt, its body wrapped in tattered hides, its face obscured by a deer skull with antlers that gleamed like bone. It held Cabin 8's blue flag, but it wasn't Ethan or his team. It moved too fast, its limbs bending wrong, and vanished into the dark. Isaiah grabbed Maya's arm. "We need to find our flag and get out. This ain't a game anymore." They ran toward their red bandana, but the cedar was bare, the flag gone. The chant followed, now joined by whispers, "Take it. Keep it." Dylan tripped, his pocket knife skittering across the rocks. The figure reappeared, holding their red bandana, its skull face tilting as if mocking them. Maya's heart pounded, she knew they weren't playing against Cabin 8 anymore. The hollow was a maze now, its paths looping, its cliffs looming like teeth. The campfire was gone, the safe zone swallowed by fog. Maya, Isaiah, and Dylan stuck together, their flashlights nearly dead. They heard screams, Ethan's team, one by one, falling silent. The figure was everywhere, its skull face flickering in the shadows, its chants filling the air. Maya remembered stories from a Lakota counselor, Tala, who'd warned about the hollow. In the 1870s, miners desecrated a sacred Lakota burial ground, stealing offerings and defiling graves. The spirits, enraged, became the Wachapi, the starving ones, who hunted trespassers, using their games to trap them. They take what you value, Tala had said. Your pride, your courage, your life. We're not stealing, Maya whispered, but the flag game felt like a violation now, a mockery of the land's pain. The figure appeared again, holding both flags, its antlers dripping with something dark. Take it, it whispered, its voice a blend of Lena's and Ethan's, layered with others, ancient and hollow. Isaiah lunged for the red bandana, but the figure's hand shot out, its fingers cold as ice. He screamed, vanishing into the fog, his flashlight clattering to the ground. Dylan, panicking, swung his pocket knife, but the blade passed through the figure like smoke. It grabbed him, its skull face inches from his, and he was gone, leaving only his knife. Maya ran, the chants deafening, the flags appearing and disappearing in the figure's hands. She stumbled into a cave near Wind Cave's entrance, its walls carved with Lakota symbols, stars, bones, eyes. A pile of offerings lay at the back, beads, feathers, and bones, some human. A journal, weathered and dated 1975, told of a camp group who played capture the flag in the hollow. The Wachapi took us, it read. The game is their trap. Maya clutched the journal, her only clue. The Wachapi used the flags to bind players, turning their game into a ritual of sacrifice. To escape, she had to reject the game, return what was taken. She found a stone altar in the cave, its surface stained with old blood. The flags were there, pulsing with a sickly light. The figure appeared, its antlers scraping the cave ceiling. Take it, it whispered, its voice now her friends, Lena, Isaiah, Dylan, Ethan. Maya's hands shook, but she remembered Tala's words, honor the land, give back what's stolen. She tore the flags, placing them on the altar with a handful of beads from the offerings, whispering an apology she barely understood. The cave shook, the chants fracturing. The figure screamed, its skull face splitting, revealing a void of stars. Maya ran, the cave collapsing, and emerged in the hollow, the fog lifting. The campfire flickered again, but her friends were gone, their screams echoing in the wind. Maya stumbled back to Camp Lakota at dawn, her clothes torn, her body bruised. The counselors searched the hollow, but found no trace of cabin 7 or 8, only the journal and a few beads scattered near the altar. The camp closed, the hollow fenced off, but the stories spread. Kids in Rapid City whispered of the Wachapi, the spirits who played capture the flag, claiming those who dared enter their valley. Maya moved to Denver, but the chants followed, the flags appearing in her dreams, dripping with starlight. She knew the hollow was still playing, waiting for new players to take its bait, forever guarding its stolen ground.